Hello once again, guitar enthusiasts. It's Steve, the Guitar Nut, busting out the fan favorite 1988 Greco RG. Well, to be honest, I don't remember which model. Is it a 55? Doesn't matter. It's my beloved 360 12-string Rickenbacker copy. Liked it so much I sold the real thing and kept this. So, old story. If you've been watching the show at all for a while, you know that. Especially those of you that go all the way back to the Rickenbacker Anonymous show. As the clickbait title implied, today I'm going to show you how to enjoy the sound of a Janglebox, arguably the premier compressor pedal, specifically for Rickenbacker 12 strings, any 12 string. It's also supposedly great for any Rickenbacker type guitar, 6 or 12. I'll tell you up front personally, I don't use a lot of compression on 6 strings. I tend to save mine for 12s. But anyhow, just to give you an idea here, I'm using my Strymon Iridium. I've currently got it set to the round setting, which is a Fender clone. Since a lot of people, their first thought when they think of a Rickenbacker 12-string sound is to think of the Byrds. The Byrds famously use their Rickenbackers through Fender amps. The Beatles, of course, use Voxes. The Who use Marshalls. The cool thing is, with an Iridium, those are the 3 models I've got. So I have access to all the classic, 12-string sounds right there in this little pedal. I'm really digging it. Maybe sometime I'll do a special feature just on the Iridium. But regardless, just to give you an idea of just exactly what this magical compression thing does. Sorry about the reflections here, but it's a shiny guitar and it's a sunny day and I'm taking advantage of a little natural sunlight here. Here is the opening riff to Mr. Tambourine Man with the guitar just running into the amp. Versus the same sound with compression. As you can hear, the actual natural sound of a Rick 12, and this does sound, having owned many, this does sound exactly like the real thing. You could actually call the sound without any compression almost spongy. A little something on the bass strings here. Now as soon as you turn on the compression, it doesn't just make it sound thinner, although it does take away some bass. It makes those, especially those octave notes, just jump out. Take it away. It's still a pleasing sound in its own way without the compression, but definitely not the same, and it's not going to jump out of a mix, live or on a recording. So I'll show a picture here of the Janglebox. I'm not going to bother trying to move the... I guess I'm recording on a phone as usual, although I've got a new phone. I haven't had any luck using cameras for this show. It looks like for the time being, the phone is the way to go. But I'll show a good large picture of the Janglebox and show you the controls here. It's a dual compressor in one box. Part of the key to the Byrds 12-string sound was not 1 but 2 studio compressors, one running into the other, which is known as series. And McGuinn also used a treble booster. This Janglebox is basically 2 compressors getting together in one box. Plus it has a mute function in case you wanted to just stop your sound entirely. And it has what's J-Boost, which is an additional treble booster built into the pedal, which, to be honest, I don't tend to use. I didn't really lust after a Janglebox per se because I was already getting what I thought was a very good sound in a different way, which I'll show you. But one of these came up at a price that was just too attractive not to try. and I got it. Now it's on my permanent board, and I do enjoy it, but I'm just letting you know, I could have gotten by without it and been equally as happy. But anyway, definitely a nice sound. You're kicking that J boost. Now it's set pretty loud right now because I didn't even check to see where the volume level was set because I don't really use that function. Definitely add some dirt. I'm not one that looks for a lot of dirt in my 12-string jangle sounds, generally speaking, but if you were, it's there on tap in droves. Bit of a noisy pedal. Quite a bit of background noise. Don't know if you can hear that or not, but it definitely adds a bit of noise. Interestingly enough, my previous method of chorusing didn't add nearly as much noise. A method that cost me about $40, which is just a very small fraction of the price of a full-size Janglebox. Mine's the JB3, by the way. So yeah, do you need a compressor, or preferably dual compressor, if you're a 12-string player? Need is a relative term. I'm going to say yes. It makes all the difference. Let me switch over to a Vox sound on the Iridium. So here's the famous Ticket to Somewhere riff. Without and with. I'd say it's essential. A lot of people would agree. Without any compression, those suspensions almost get lost in the mix of the rush of all the strings. I kick in the compression, and those notes just jump out. Now, I've done my best to try to equalize the volumes here, but there's what's called the Fletcher-Munson effect, where our ears automatically think anything that sounds louder sounds better. Those of you that ever watched the Josh Scott JHS pedal show here on YouTube know that that's one of his favorite phrases, louder's more good. But it's not volume that we're looking at here, it's tone and it's feel. Like I said, there's that sponginess that's inherent in the 12-string, and in any 12-string I've found, but you know, specifically we're talking about Ricks, where I've actually got round wounds on here at the moment, but the classic Rickenbacker 12-string sound comes from flat wound strings, because these round wounds tend to have a little bit too much treble, just naturally, but not the kind of usable treble that we're talking about that's accentuated by the compression. So if you're using flat wounds, you're getting a deader sound without the compression, but then you hit the compression. All that brightness comes back, but not in a non-pleasing way. So anyhow, I think I've talked enough about and illustrated the sound here. So what is the point of the clickbait title, have a Janglebox for $50 or less? Believe it or not, allow me to use the mute function on the Janglebox here. Believe it or not, the secret is something that I think most people would never anticipate. And now keep in mind, you might be able to pull this off with any pair of inexpensive, or not so inexpensive, it's easy for me to say, inexpensive compressors. But this was my secret weapon before I got the Janglebox, and indeed it could very well be again. The Janglebox is far from essential to my rig. Like I said, it's just more convenient. It's already on my board. I would say it takes up the space of one pedal, but honestly the Janglebox is bigger than a pair of these. Let me grab the other. This is the Behringer or Behringer. I've never really figured out what the proper pronunciation of this is. For some reason, they highlight the ing in the word when they do their advertising, so that makes me think it's a Behringer, but whatever it is, Behringer, you're familiar with these. This is the DC9 Dynamics compressor. Now, there are other models of Behringer compressor pedals. There's a yellow plastic-bodied one that you see commonly now. I believe these are out of production, have been for a while. But this is actually an amazing pedal. I'm not sure what it's based on, but the circuit sounds great. And you get even one does a great job, but get a pair of them, set them up more or less the same to not too much compression each, stack them, and they get an amazing sound. Now people ask, why two? You know, I mean, what is the deal with the dual compression? Why couldn't you just turn one up? And the simple fact of the matter is, it just doesn't work the same way. You turn up a single compressor, more attack, more sensitivity, whatever the control that they choose to use, you lose a lot of your dynamics, you lose the feel of your picking. The tone is different. You stack two of these set to a mild compression, it gives an entirely different effect. I'm not sure, those of you out there with electrical engineering degrees in the sound field can chime in by all means. Let us know the reasons behind this. But it's the same way that a lot of people, myself included, like to stack overdrive pedals rather than just turn one up. It actually gives you an entirely different feel and a different sound than just cranking the gain on one pedal. And the same thing is true for these. Now, fun fact about these, I got my first one, oh gosh, I've probably had this close to 20 years. I believe when it was brand new, it was somewhere in the vicinity of $30. It's been so long ago, I don't remember. The second one, which I can tell by the sticker residue that's on it, I actually found recently, because I've got actually three of these, but I found this second one here on Reverb recently. I got it for $20, shipping included. So if you could do the same twice, which it's not impossible, it happens. There's one on there right now for $45, which I think might be a little high, but that's your call to make. It's still a whole lot cheaper than buying a Janglebox or some other high-end compressor pedal. But for maybe $50, could be less, you could have practically the same sound. Now, fun fact, I started off this episode playing the riff from Mr. Tambourine Man with and without the Janglebox. Truth be told, fooled you. It was actually these. I didn't turn the Janglebox on until halfway through the video. And if I'm being completely honest with you, listening to the Janglebox and these back to back, there are actually some things I like better about the sound of these. Again, it's more convenient to just leave the Janglebox on my board because it's already there. But shockingly good little pedals for practically no money. You can probably find tons of these things in pawn shops or wherever else. It's not like Behringer has a big resale. You know, there's not a lot of cachet behind the name. Most people think, if I'm being frank, most people think of Behringer stuff as junk, which isn't fair. Certainly they've made some items that aren't the best. Their plastic line of pedals, although they actually sound pretty good, they're not very robust. They do break, which I guess being plastic, you'd almost expect that they would. These are solid metal. These are built like tanks. And again, if you can find one, the DC9 Dynamics compressor, I highly recommend it. Can't recommend it enough. And in case you're curious, I put some little sparkly things on here years and years ago. There are my settings. Yours will vary. And if I've got one like this, I tend to have the second one set for a lower compression rate. And then I just use one of them to govern the overall output. Personally, I don't like a lot of volume boost on my compression. I like to set it for more or less unity gain. I want to feel the difference and hear the difference, but not get the Fletcher Munson volume jump thing. Unless I'm specifically looking for a solo boost, in which case I usually have, you know, some other kind of a boost set up ready to go anyway. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Give you about 15 minutes to talk about a very underrated little pedal here. And also about the Janglebox. By all means, if you want to try one, do. It's a great pedal. I'm not in any way disparaging it. I'm just letting you know that it's not a necessity. But it is convenient to have, you know, 2 circuits in one box, to have that mute function if you needed it. It has 2 outputs. You could use that for stereo situations, or use one the way I do, which is to run a tuner pedal off of the second unused output. And it has that built-in treble boost, which may be essential to you. Maybe you're playing a Byrds tribute band and you need that particular raunchy sound for a few songs, which McGuinn did indeed use. So by all means, I say try them out. Try everything out. There's a newer, I guess it's been 10 years now, but newer to me, compressor pedal out called the Cali 76 that's supposed to sound like a classic outboard effect that's supposed to be great. There's all kinds of compressors out there. Most of them are based around a couple of simple paradigms, either Ross or something else. But try them all, try a few, try stacking a couple of different cheap compressors. You might get lucky. You might already have in your collection of pedals a couple of compressors that would give you exactly what you need without spending a dime. The key is to just try. You have nothing to lose. And heck, in the case of this one, it even came with a free battery. A new battery, no less. Although I don't think you're supposed to ship things with batteries in them. I could be wrong. Anyhow, just thought I'd share that with you. Hopefully this did you some good. Hopefully this didn't bore you to tears. I'm thinking there's a segment out there that's going to really be into this, and the majority is going to say, eh. But for those of you who are into this, this was for you. The rest of you, I'll see you on the next regular episode, where we're going to have a bunch of great juicy stuff. I've been called everything except a fine, upstanding young man over my Gibson videos, and I'll get to share all that juiciness with you on the next episode. Probably, I don't even anticipate it being a week from now. So I'll talk to you soon. In the meanwhile, stay frosty and jangle on. I'm out.